Right, so we have one more thing I wanted to do as part of the session here, and this is something slightly crazy, slightly risky, but it's going to be fun. Which is we tried to look at this morning. I looked at the outages list to see if there was something interesting that happened in the last 24 hours that we might like to live troubleshoot here in the next 10 minutes and see what we can see. So if you guys are up for this fun, we can try this. And my marketing department gets a little nervous when I say live troubleshooting on an event using the product. So this might really put me in a bad spot, but I'm willing to take that chance. So it's what I will do here is, let me show you what I found in outages. And I haven't really examined this, but I do know we saw a lot of alerts. So we're going to see that in a second here. Right, so when we go to outages, what I saw was this one here. Now, how many people are aware of this? So, right, Joel, who was one of our customers at Zynga, actually sent this note to outages saying there are some issues going on level 3 right around 4:30 UTC. And then there is a string of messages here, which took quite a lot of time, but eventually level 3 acknowledged that it had some sort of maintenance going on. But here's the fun acknowledgement here. If you can read this, let me magnify that. There's just a little bit of a problem that the maintenance activity caused traffic to the internet access customers to black hole, which is a small little problem that happened in the maintenance window. But what we'll try to do now is try to look at what we see with ThousandEyes. And this is going to be an interesting live troubleshooting. Okay, so hopefully I'm not logged out here. So this screen is showing our alerts view for one of our SEs, Pete. And you can see a big spike in the alerts, which is around the time that we saw the level 3 issues. So what I want to do here is understand if we can see something interesting. So this selected window from 4 UTC yesterday to 6 UTC, 2 hours. And we can dig into anything that looks interesting. Let's look at the BGP one here, maybe 7 monitors. So that seems like a lot of guys had issues. Let's try to see what we can see for this guy. All right, I'm going to actually go to the web layer and see what happens. Right, so interestingly, this is some URL that I'm not really familiar with, but what we see in this view is the availability of the application, right, at the application layer. And you can notice here there are some problems starting around 4:35 UTC. So that's about the time where level 3 started doing the maintenance. The problems continue until about this time here. So let's try to understand what's going on here. We go into path visualization. I'm pretty positive we'll see something interesting. Packet loss corresponding to that availability. Let's try to find a more interesting time here with more packets lost. Yeah, and so there oh wow, this is interesting. So there is actually a nice little loop building up there, but let's see packets with, these are the hops inside of Chicago and Seattle that were having loss, and they're all in level 3's environment. So this is, it's not as scary as I thought it would be, but interestingly enough, if you notice, there is a nice little loop here, which means packets are basically going to that interface, going to something else, and going back to that interface, and eventually dropping. So fun activities going on inside level 3. I also remember seeing BGP alerts. If we go into the BGP view. Right, so this is Smooth Stone. Primary, most of the traffic going through level 3, and then there are some others. And we do see BGP changes going on here. So I think at this point, let's see here, yes. So what this graph is showing is the dashed line is the old BGP route, and the solid line is the new BGP route. So whatever these guys were doing, they probably figured out that level 3 was having major issues, and this was causing the problem. So either deliberately switched routes to go via AT&T, or the level 3 peering broke. We can't tell from this graph, but we do see that there was a BGP change that happened at this point of time, which is corresponding to They went, and clearly level 3 is completely out of the BGP picture here. And then I think my guess is this is when they brought it back, probably because, let's see if they brought it back. They did bring it back, probably because it's cheaper to go through level 3 for some of their transits there. So, okay, so this is an interesting event. What do we want to look at? We can look at anything. This is an interesting one as well. Unum. Let's see if we find something interesting here. Okay, so this looks very similar to what we saw with the other side. And notice these are completely disconnected applications, right? They have no relation with each other. The only relation is they're using level 3 as an upstream. Let's go to pathways. I think we'll see a very similar behavior, lots of loss. That is correct. And 7 nodes with loss, I am pretty sure they're all in level 3. Interestingly not. Okay, so this is getting interesting.
Take your time.
So we see a lot of loss inside level 3, but we're also seeing Cogent and Quest, which is actually pretty interesting. I would not have expected this. Let's look at BGP to see if there's any BGP activity. BGP looks pretty clean, so nothing changing there. All right, let's do one thing. Let's look at another test to see if there were other issues going on with ISPs as well. We can look at Cox. And it seems like Cox was always having problems. That's not good. Okay, this is getting interesting. I'm enjoying this. So let's see what's going on here. I'm clicking on.
Based around what you just did right there, you're basically doing a stare and compare against two different situations, right? But a normal ThousandEyes end customer wouldn't necessarily have that. Is there any way you guys can do some sort of like anonymization of data to say what else can I see that compares to my? So
there's two things you can do right now. One thing is if you have multiple assets, you can compare across them. Right. That's true, and most people have multiple assets even though in the same site. The other thing is our customer success department, which is this small live chat icon here. They see a much bigger picture, so if you reach out to them, they can actually handhold you through a troubleshooting process. And then the third thing,
so they can actually assist you.
So I can click here
troubleshooting an issue.
I can click here, and this is disabled because it's our internal account. But when you click on this, you'll be able to engage with them, and they're actually, we have CCIEs, CCNAs that are sitting there. They really understand the network environment that can help you understand what's going on. So that's one reason why people really like us, because we can actually be your partner in this process.
So it's not just helping, why is my thing going on in the context of mine, but also I guess they're aware of the other.
Yeah, and then and to answer your question, what we're doing in the future, we're actually working on anonymizing this data and providing as an aggregate to everybody else.
Yeah,
that's coming
really
up.
Cool.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Because we have really good visibility to this. So this is actually interesting because what I see is the errors here are receive errors, and this is, I'm just going to point at some more objects here. So this is also a receive error. What receive error essentially means is the operation is timing out after a timeout, which is 5 seconds. So the application here is really having problems almost all the time. What I do want to see is if during the I think, what is it, 4:30 UTC, right? So let's see if we have a different behavior at this point. Yeah, so if you notice here, look, so I think this is interesting. If you notice here, the error pattern has changed to show connect errors. Usually connect errors is the network issue. So if I go into pathways, you will see the packet loss spiking up. So in this case, the application is actually having problems all the time, but only this bit is network related. And I think we'll see a similar issue here where this is actually Cogent. Interesting. This is level 3. So we do see level 3 there. But the moral of this one, if I look at it, I think the moral of this one is if you want your network problems to be not exposed, then make the application really shitty. And then you don't really have to worry about the network problems being exposed.
Noted.
Now what I want to try to understand here is the interesting bit, and I'll take 1 minute and see if we can figure this out. If not, we'll try to get into this offline. But the interesting thing to me here was that Cogent was having issues, and I didn't see anything on the outages list for Cogent.
See if the next hop during a clean period is level 3.
No, it's Cogent. All right, so here's what we can do. Let's expose the topology completely, and let's see what segment of this is level 3. So you can overlay. And so this part is actually, I think I know what's going on. Let me see, try one thing. So it's likely that the return path is going through level 3 to that agent. So what we can try to do is run an instant test from Tokyo TCP or ICMP. Let's just try. So one problem could be that the return path is actually going through level 3. So even though the Cogent last hop is responsive, the packets are going back through level 3, and that's causing problem. We'll figure that out. So what I'm running is an instant test, and oh, there you go. So the return path is actually going through level 3. That explains why we were not able to get to the endpoint from that location, even though the forwarding path was going through Cogent. So, and I can almost surely see that behavior for other guys as well. So if you look at the Boston agent, this is Quest, and if I trace the path to this guy,
while that's running real quick, Bob, you said you've used this. Is the response always this fast?
Yeah, the UI is actually really good.
That's extremely slick.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things that struck me.
Yeah, if you've ever used other application performance monitoring tools, they're often
it's a lot of times it's click and wait. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no,
and this
really
is extremely fast.
Yeah, so we found this one is also going through level 3, so that makes sense. I was concerned for a little bit that we were catching something wrong, but this is actually a level 3 impact, and the other ISPs are impacted only in one way, which kind of brings back to...
How do you build the application layer tests?
How do we build the application layer test in the web tests?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the web test, we have one test which is actually running, it's like a wget simulation, right? It's just doing the fetch and characterizing response time and all that. The other test is actually running the full page in a Chrome browser instance, which looks at all the waterfalls and so on. So if maybe this one, let's see if one of them has a page view. So I'll try to show you something that has a see. Oh yeah, this is an easier way to do this. Yeah, which is go to page load. So if you look at the page load test, you go into my account. This was Pete's account, which I'm not really familiar with. So here's an example. So when we run into the page load test, it will actually load the entire page, and you can then go into the waterfall to look at all the individual objects that are being loaded. So that's the highest at the application layer, and then you can go to the web server and then at the network layer. But the network probing is always done in a way which simulates what the application behavior would be. So on the voice side, which Joa covered, we were using UDP and we're making it look like it's application traffic, which is why the chances of that being blocked are very less, since it looks like application traffic. So so hopefully this is good, and we have maybe a couple minutes if anybody wants to run any instant test to their site or asset, want to visualize something, we can do that. Or
what was the big outage that happened? Was it last week? Was it Comcast?
It was Time Warner, and we actually have a blog on that one as well. So we did analyze that one, and there's a blog that we wrote, I think 3 days ago or 4 days ago, on covering that outage. So we can cover that. If not, we can probably any other questions for the overall session on stuff we covered, and what parts are most exciting to you guys?
Do you have any customers that are currently doing the voice monitoring piece?
We have a couple that are just trying in betas, because this is not, we're just showing this to you guys for the first time, so you can be our first few beta testers if you want, but we're trying it in our own environment, and we use WebEx and voice and all that, so in our own environment we found issues that are pretty interesting to see, so it does work. We know that.